The morning sun had just begun to rise over the wide, dusty plains. The wind whispered through the tall grasses, carrying with it the faint smell of earth and sagebrush. In the small town on the edge of the desert, most people were still asleep. Their homes quiet, except for the occasional crow or the soft creak of a swinging sign. Only a few early risers were out, walking to the stables or checking fences. And the air was still calm and peaceful, not far from the town. A lone cowboy rode along a narrow trail, his horse moving steadily despite the uneven ground. He was a man of few words, with strong, steady hands and eyes that seemed to notice everything. Dust clung to the brim of his hat, and his boots were worn from years of riding. People in town often admired his courage, though most had never seen him in danger. Today, however, was about to test him in ways no one had imagined, near the river that cut through the edge of the plains. Two young Apache girls were playing. Their laughter rang clearly through the early morning air. The older one, perhaps 9 or 10, had long dark hair that shone in the sunlight. And the younger, around 6, had a curious sparkle in her eyes. Their mother had warned them to stay close to the village. But the girls had wandered farther than usual, drawn by the shiny rocks along the riverbank. The water moved gently at first, reflecting the golden sunlight, and the girls leaned over to watch the small fish darting between the stones. Suddenly the calm changed. Far upstream, rain had fallen in the mountains, though it had been too far for the town to notice. The water in the river began to rise quickly, moving faster and faster. Small waves formed along the edges, and the gentle murmur of the stream turned into a soft roar. The girls were unaware of the danger, their attention caught entirely by a shiny stone that the older girl tried to pick up. Before they could react, a surge of water pushed against them, and they lost their footing. The older girl grabbed the younger one's hand, trying to pull her back to safety, but the current was too strong. Within seconds, they were swept into the river, clinging to each other and screaming for help. Their shouts reached the few townsfolk who had begun their morning chores. People rushed to the riverbank, calling out and waving their arms, but the water was too deep and fast. No one could get close enough to reach them without being pulled in themselves. The cowboy, riding along a nearby trail, saw the commotion. At first he thought someone had fallen from the rocks, but when he caught sight of the girls struggling in the water, he acted without hesitation. He urged his horse forward, feeling the urgency in every heartbeat. He knew that every second counted. The river was rougher up close than it had seemed from a distance. The water hit against his horse's legs as they approached, and the muddy waves made it hard to find footing. Still, the cowboy remained calm, guiding his horse carefully to the river's edge. He knew he had to act carefully, or both the horse and the girls could be in danger. He dismounted quickly, leaving the horse tied to a nearby tree with a rope, and waded into the rushing water. The cold hit him immediately, and the current pulled at his legs. Testing his balance, the younger girl's small body was being carried away with frightening speed. The cowboy reached her just in time, stretching out his arms and catching her under the shoulders. The water splashed against his chest, and he struggled to keep her above the surface. Her eyes were wide with fear, and she clung tightly to him, her small hands gripping his coat. He spoke softly to her, using calm words to reassure her that she would be safe. Once the younger girl was secure, he turned toward the older one. She had managed to grab onto a floating branch, but the current was pulling her downstream. The cowboy moved quickly, bracing himself against the flow of the river. He extended his arm, catching the girl by her wrist. The water surged around them, but he held on, using all his strength to guide her toward the riverbank. His muscles ached, and the cold cut through his clothing. He did not let go. Finally, he pulled both girls onto the sand. The water rushed past, leaving wet sand clinging to their clothes and hair. The younger girl cried softly while the older one hugged her brother tightly,
Oh.
their small bodies shivering from fear and cold. The cowboy knelt beside them, checking to make sure neither had been hurt. The townsfolk rushed forward now, bringing blankets and helping the girls warm up. Everyone looked at the cowboy with awe, realizing that he had risked his life for these two children. The girl's mother arrived shortly afterward, running as fast as she could from the village. Her eyes widened as she saw her daughters safe and the cowboy standing beside them, soaked and tired but smiling gently. She dropped to her knees beside the girls, wrapping her arms around them and whispering words of relief and love. Her tears fell freely, a mix of gratitude and astonishment at the bravery of the stranger who had saved her children. The townsfolk could not stop talking about what had just happened. They praised the cowboy, but he only nodded, brushing sand from his coat. Anyone would have done the same, he said quietly. Though everyone knew it was more than courage, it was skill, experience, and a heart willing to act when others hesitated. The girls clung to his hands for a few moments longer, their trust and gratitude clear in their wide eyes. By the time the sun rose fully over the plains, the river had calmed, returning to its usual gentle flow. But the story of that morning would remain with the town forever. Children in the streets would hear the tale for years to come, and mothers would tell their own little ones about the cowboy who had risked everything to save two young girls from the rushing waters. The cowboy mounted his horse again, now tied nearby, and rode slowly back toward the town. He did not seek attention or reward. He had done what he believed was right. The girl's mother watched him go, knowing that her children's lives had been saved by someone she did not know well, but who had shown the kind of courage and heart that left a permanent mark on everyone who had witnessed it as he rode into the distance. The sun glinted off his hat, the wind following him across the plains. Though tired and wet, he felt a quiet satisfaction. The town, the mother, and especially the girls, would remember this day forever. And for him, that was enough. The morning ended not with grand celebrations, but with a sense of relief, awe, and quiet respect. People went back to their daily chores, but the memory of bravery lingered in every corner of the town. The river continued to flow, but now it held a story of courage that would ripple through the lives of everyone it touched. The next morning, the town was quiet again, but the air felt different. People spoke in low, excited whispers about the events of the previous day. The story of the cowboy who had risked his life to save the two Apache girls had spread through the streets like wildfire. Everyone was still amazed at the courage it had taken to step into the rushing river and bring the children to safety. Early that day, the girl's mother arrived in town. She moved with calm purpose, holding the hands of her daughters as they walked behind her. Her face was serious but full of emotion, and her eyes glistened with both relief and gratitude. She carried a small basket, neatly woven and filled with food and handmade gifts, simple items that were precious in her culture. The townsfolk watched her carefully, knowing something important was about to happen. The mother stopped near the edge of the main square, where the cowboy was tending to his horse. The girls peeked from behind her, shy but curious. When the cowboy noticed them, he straightened and tipped his hat politely, greeting the family with a quiet nod. The mother motioned for him to come closer, and he approached carefully. Sensing the importance of this moment, she spoke softly at first, her words measured and full of meaning. "Yesterday, you saved our children," she said. "I cannot thank you enough. Your bravery is remembered, and your kindness will never be forgotten." Her voice was gentle, yet carried a weight that made everyone around them listen carefully. The girls stepped forward, holding the mother's hands, their eyes wide as they looked at the cowboy who had become their hero. From the basket, the mother took a small handcrafted token, carefully made from woven fibers and decorated with small beads. She presented it to the cowboy with both hands, bowing slightly in a gesture of respect. The token was a symbol of honor in her culture, a way to show gratitude to someone who had performed a great deed. The townsfolk murmured in awe, understanding that this simple gift carried far more meaning than gold or silver could ever hold. The cowboy accepted the token with humility. He held it in his hands for a moment, examining the intricate patterns, and then nodded respectfully. "I only did what anyone would do," he said quietly. But those who watched could see that he understood the honor he had been given. It was not recognition he sought, but the sincere gratitude of a family he had helped. The girl's mother smiled softly, then turned to her children. She knelt and pulled them into a gentle embrace, holding them close and speaking words of comfort. The girls, still a little shy, hugged her tightly, feeling the warmth and safety of her presence. Then they looked up at the cowboy, their eyes bright with admiration and thanks. They offered him a small smile, and the gesture, though simple, said more than words ever could. The townsfolk slowly gathered around, some stepping forward to shake the cowboy's hand or speak words of praise. Children whispered excitedly to each other, imagining themselves brave like the man who had risked the river for the two girls. Parents nodded to their neighbors, explaining how important courage and kindness could be. The energy of the moment was gentle but powerful, filled with respect, relief, and awe. The mother spoke again, this time addressing the gathered crowd. "Bravery is not always about fighting or winning," she said. "It is about seeing someone in need and choosing to act, even when it is difficult or dangerous. Yesterday, he showed us all what that means." Her words echoed in the town square, and the crowd remained silent for a moment, absorbing the truth in them. After a pause, she turned back to the cowboy. "Please, let us share a meal together," she said. "It is not much, but it is from the heart." The cowboy hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. He had eaten little since the early hours of the previous day, and the thought of a warm meal and good company was welcome. The small group moved toward the family's home at the edge of town. The girls skipped lightly along the path, holding hands and laughing softly, their worries from the previous day replaced by the safety and warmth of their mother's presence. The cowboy followed behind, his steps careful but steady, feeling a quiet satisfaction in knowing that his actions had truly made a difference. Inside the home, the air was warm and fragrant, with simple food being prepared. The family worked together to set a small table, placing bowls of stew, freshly baked bread, and sweet berries for dessert. The cowboy took a seat at the table, and the mother insisted that the girls sit close to him. Their laughter filled the room, and for a moment, the world outside seemed to fade away. During the meal, the mother spoke of the importance of family and community, reminding everyone that life was not only about individual courage but also about supporting one another. She spoke quietly to the cowboy, explaining that his actions had shown her daughters what true bravery looked like, and how important it was to help those in need. The cowboy listened, nodding, but said little. He preferred actions over words. And this quiet moment of shared respect and gratitude felt more meaningful than any praise. The girls, meanwhile, were eager to show him small drawings they had made, inspired by the river and the bright morning when they were saved. Their simple sketches, full of color and imagination, brought a smile to the cowboy's face. He admired their creativity and encouraged them, praising their skill. The room was filled with gentle joy, a calm celebration of life and safety rather than grand ceremony. After the meal, the mother led the cowboy outside to show him the small garden she had created for her family. She explained how it provided food for the household and how it required care and patience to maintain. The cowboy listened intently, impressed by her dedication and the way she nurtured her children and family. It was a reminder that courage was not only shown in dramatic acts, but also in the everyday effort to care for those you loved. The sun had climbed high by the time the cowboy decided to leave. The girls waved from the porch, and their mother stood beside them, holding the token once again. "Remember this day," she said softly. "Remember what it means to help others and to act with heart." The cowboy nodded, tipping his hat, feeling a quiet pride and contentment as he rode back toward the open plains. The wind carried the sound of the girls' laughter and the gentle murmur of the mother's voice. The river flowed calmly in the distance, a reminder of the morning's danger and the life-saving courage that had changed it. The town would speak of the event for years, not only for the daring rescue, but also for the lessons of kindness, respect, and community it represented. The cowboy's figure grew smaller as he rode away, but the impact of his actions lingered. The mother returned to her daughters, holding them close, and the townsfolk continued with their day, now more aware of the quiet, powerful courage that exists in ordinary people. Children would tell the story to their friends. Neighbors would recount it with admiration, and everyone who had witnessed or heard of the rescue understood the value of bravery paired with compassion. By evening, the town was calm once more, but the morning's events remained in every heart. The girls slept soundly that night, dreaming of the man who had saved them. Their mother watched over them, feeling gratitude that words could scarcely express. And somewhere across the plains, the cowboy rested, knowing that the simple act of helping others had made a difference that would be remembered long after the river had returned to its usual flow. The story became a quiet legend, not for grand celebrations, but for the respect and honor shown between strangers, the trust formed in moments of fear, and the simple but powerful human connection that had turned a dangerous morning into a tale of hope, courage, and lasting gratitude.